That ain't that talking your picture.
That is a two.
Oh, I'm talking to you. I ain't talking your picture.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, well, pleased to meet you, young man. I'm Pastor Nancy Way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you. Yeah.
Well, just to be brief, one of the reasons my name is Charles Hannibal. I'm working with New Voices, New Vision, which is a local arts group that was formed and established by Ron Shedrick. So he's hosting the forum. And I just wanted to take the time to make some comments from when Ron asked me about this forum. He said it's about inclusion, exclusion, and trying to find out what that was about. And he directed me to a report in 2014 that documents the impact of racial exclusion at the county level. And that report focused on Lenoir County. And I'll try to skip through it so that you don't have to go through the whole thing. In the middle of the Black Belt of eastern North Carolina, Lenoir County is divided between its mostly white rural population and the concentrated African American populations in Kinston and LaGrange. This new report focuses on the impact of racial segregation on public education, political representation, and utility services. Profiles of other counties will follow in the coming weeks, each highlighting particular aspects of that county's history, ongoing impacts of exclusion, and progress toward full inclusion of all residents. Says that and I'll go off over here. It talks about education as one of the centers of focus, and says that there seems to be a divide in Lenoir County between cities and county residents. And the Black population is concentrated around the cities, seems to be, according to the trend. And there is disparity. This report was by the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and it says, Kinston High School and other schools in Kinston, this focuses on Kinston, and also is inclusive of LaGrange. Kinston High School and other schools in Kinston are racially isolated. They have higher concentrations of African Americans in the city itself. Compared to county schools, Kinston has much higher percentages of free and reduced lunches, eligible students, worse educational outcomes, an average SAT score that is 100 points lower, and significantly fewer students are passing English, Algebra 1, and Biology end-of-grade tests. Redrawing assignment zones to effectuate merger in more than name only would result in greater educational equity and opportunity for all Lenoir County students. Lenoir County faces challenges with respect to voting rights for its citizens. Formerly covered by Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, the county is notorious for challenges to the Voting Rights Act following the U.S. Department of Justice refusal to let Kinston move to nonpartisan elections. African Americans are underrepresented at every local government board in the county, with the sole exception of the LaGrange Town Council. Now, this report was done in 2014. I have not updated. Perhaps these statistics have changed. It's the same. Okay. Without the protection of Section 5, which was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013, there may be little hope for improvement, and any further redistricting or voter changes should be closely watched for adverse impact on African American voters. Ideally, countywide districts should be redrawn to maximize African American voting strength, and the possibility of districted elections for Kinston Town Council should be explored. African American voters in the county lost federal political power in the 2011 congressional redistricting, which packed voters from Lenoir into U.S. Housing District 1, represented by G.K. Butterfield, with the African American voters of 22 counties spanning from Durham east all the way to Pasquotank County, and from Craven County north to the Virginia border. That redistricting is still being challenged in federal court under the Voting Rights Act. The county does a better job than some in providing equal access to utilities. Most residents have water service and sewer is provided within the towns. The majority African American towns of Kinston and LaGrange also provide electricity to most of their residents, and some communities outside their limits as part of the North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency. Unfortunately, municipal rates are on average about a third higher than electricity sold by private utilities, and customers have no choice in electric providers. The result is that the disproportionately African American residents of the towns pay significantly higher bills than their rural, predominantly white neighbors. While the issue of high municipal electric rates will require a statewide solution, both Kinston and LaGrange should cease any transfer of funds from electric revenue to their general operating fund, which unfairly burdens out-of-town residents. The information in this profile of Lenoir County can only come alive through dialogue with the affected communities. The Center for Civil Rights hopes to hear from residents, advocates, and community leaders as we continue to uncover the history and scope of exclusion. Our goal is to provide communities, advocates, and policymakers with an understanding of the shared causes of the overlapping challenges facing excluded communities, provide them with data on the seriousness of the issues, and to suggest where additional data is needed. The first phase of this project was a statewide analysis and the publication of the State of Exclusion report. The results were startling, especially with respect to educational disparities and environmental justice issues. But ultimately, the report raises more questions than provided answers. The Inclusion Project of the UNC Center for Civil Rights now continues this work with these profiles of individual counties. Look for information on other counties. To be published, it says to come this spring. This is, again, 2014. And that is the Policy Watch report for Lenoir County. All right. This is a candidates forum, and I would invite our candidates forward at this time if they have any remarks they would like to address.